As I was out last night, I just want to relay my experience and some lessons, share with you. Maybe it'll help you on your journey, and you might have experienced this same kind of sticking point. But when you're going out with friends, what can happen is you might start relying on one another to do approaches, or you might start to get comfortable just standing around with your wings, with your friends, rather than actually going and approaching. You might also feel bad or guilty to even just walk away and maybe go around and go solo doing approaches on your own. But I think that for me, that is the sticking point, is you want to be able to walk out on your own in the venue and then start going and doing approaches by yourself and not be totally dependent on your friends, on your wings. Be willing to walk away, be willing to go and scout around, because ultimately your wing's not gonna be there to hold your hand to make you go and approach. And as well, there's no excuses. So, you know, you might be seeing a lot of ladies that you want to speak to, but then you might think, oh, why isn't my wing talking to them? Why isn't he trying? Why isn't he opening? Well, no, it doesn't matter what he's doing. It's about his growth. It's about your growth. He might be at a different place in his development than you are. So you got to focus on you and no excuses. So next time you go out, be willing to walk away, or even say, I'm going down this way, come join me if you want, but then start making your approaches, start talking to people. And if he's going to sit around or not approach, maybe that's where he's at, right? You can't fault somebody for that. You got to just focus on you though. And then you guys can always reconvene. Maybe you're taking a break. You guys can chat. But then you got to still be the one to get out there and start doing your approaches. Don't hold yourself back, and don't get comfortable and stay in the warm end of the pool. As well, when you're out, you must be willing to approach just for the sake of approaching itself. And why is that? Because you are not entitled to anything else other than your actions. So instead of putting your expectations on things and on results that you don't have control over, like whether or not a girl is even interested in taking things anywhere with you, then what you want to do is that you want to just take pleasure, and like real pleasure and joy, just from conversating, just from going up and talking to the people that you want to talk to. Which then, funny enough, by doing so, you're opening up more opportunities, and then you're more likely to find that person that you vibe with and that you maybe end up taking things further with, if you know what I mean. Also, when you're in these environments, when you're in bars, when you're in clubs, there's a tendency to think that everyone knows everybody, but realize too that people are going through the same things as everybody else. We're in there, nobody really knows each other. We're pushing ourselves, we're trying to conversate. You know, girls are going in there with their friends, holding hands, trying to comfort one another. Everybody's feeling maybe a little anxious, but then, funny enough, you can then interpret that as excitement. But basically the biggest thing is that when you are out with your friends, to kind of treat it again like you're on your own. No one's going to make you do your approaches. You got to still be the one to have that self-jurisdiction where you go and you make yourself do what you need to do. And something that you can do is then go and peel off your friends, go do a round in the venue, go talk to some people, then reconvene, maybe touch base, have sort of like a home base that you guys can then chat, maybe take a quick break, and then get back out there and do it again. But ultimately, you got to rely on yourself. Again, coming back to self-reliance. Validating yourself, giving yourself recognition, everything must come from within. As well, be willing to do something crazy. Be willing to act a fool. Be willing to get outside of your box. The point is to break through those inhibitions and those mental blockages that are preventing you from being able to take the opportunities that are presenting themselves either in the day or at night. So you might do something silly or out of the ordinary, just so that you can break free of those mental shackles that are preventing you from taking action. That's the point of experimenting, having fun, self-amusement, approaching everyone. That's another thing too. I mean, there's many different strategies you can take. Some people, they approach everyone. Others, maybe they say, oh, I only approach girls that I'm absolutely interested in. But I think there's value in approaching everyone as well. You're not putting people on a pedestal as well. You're getting yourself in a social flow, but there's no right and wrong way. You might have to, you might take on different strategies, and then you can also experiment with different strategies too. You don't have to only choose one and be so stringent and strict about your approach. That's the point. Experimentation, see what happens. See, and then maybe you come into your own and you find something that works for you. But be willing to experiment, be willing to try new things. And again, the end result of finding a girl that maybe wants to take things to a romantic level with you is more so outside of your control. So then have fun conversating, have fun with the part of the process that is in your control. The opening, just talking to an attractive girl. That's rewarding in itself. The action itself is the reward. And it's so true, really is, and you have to believe that. So another thing that I'm reminded of is I just got out of the gym, and I wanted to relay this to you because I think it's going to be helpful on your journey. And that is that sometimes it feels like you're not progressing. It might feel like you're stagnating or that you're not getting any better. You're going out, and that's what happens. Sometimes you reach plateaus, and it feels like you're not getting any better or that you're stagnating. Or sometimes it even maybe feels like you're going backwards. But the thing is that you have to trust that if you are going out and you're being consistent in your actions, you're putting in the hours and you're dedicating the time to your craft, you're getting in the reps. Some days maybe you're more energetic than others. Some days maybe you seem to make progress when others it seems like you're not making progress. But just you need to have faith that if you're putting in the time and you're taking action, that you are getting better. And it is true, you are getting better. You may not even realize it. You might not even recognize it, because what happens is that, from my understanding, when I looked into the neuroscience, and what it says is that the learning happens when you go to sleep. So what happens is sometimes you're out, maybe you're out at night, you're talking to girls, you're socializing, you're pushing yourself, and it can, and in the moment sometimes it can feel challenging, and it may even feel like you're not even getting anywhere. But the thing is that when you go home, when you go to sleep, that's when your brain starts rewiring. So trust that you are making progress. Trust that trust in your actions, trust in the process, trust that if you're going out, you're making the attempts, you're getting in the reps, you're putting in the time, that you are getting better. And then of course, you're analyzing your nights, you're doing everything you can to optimize your learning, ways you can speed up the learning process, recording yourself, analyzing your nights, journaling, writing down what you think you did well, what you think you could be doing better, experimenting, trying different methods, trying different strategies when you go out, getting feedback from your friends, or maybe even hiring a coach, wink, wink. But these are ways that you can speed up the learning process, but it's still a slow process. It's all about those little incremental improvements each and every time that you go out. And that's what it's all about. So just make sure you're being consistent, make sure you're putting in the time, make sure you're putting in the effort. And just realize, even though sometimes it feels like you're not making progress, if you're making the attempts, you're putting in the effort, trust that you are moving forward. And it's true, you are. And then you're going to recognize at some point, it feels like you just make these jumps, these leaps in your progression. But it's very slow, it's very subtle. That's why you got to recognize the tiny, subtle bits of progress that you're making and build off of that. Give yourself the credit, because you can only build off of your success. You can't build off of failure. Don't be hard on yourself. Don't focus on all the things that you could be doing better and telling yourself you suck and coming down on yourself. Give yourself credit for the incremental bits of progress that you're making each and every time that you go out. Also, another thing that is important to your progress, it's going to help you in your journey as well is to do the things that are scary for you. Do the things where you feel resistance and move towards that thing. So maybe in the beginning of your journey, it's just about going and opening conversations with strangers, and you might not even judge who that is. You're just going and making conversations, whether it's somebody at a clerk at a store, an old lady, whatever it may be. But then later in your journey, it might be groups of people. It might be girls that you find attractive, that are intimidating, whatever that situation is. Maybe it's group sets, mixed sets, girls and guys, whatever it may be. Identify those areas that are challenging for you and just continuously try to push your comfort zone and continuously try to push those boundaries, those internal challenges and obstacles that are there for you. It's not about comparing yourself to anybody else. It's just about continuously trying to push your own comfort zone, and that's how people reach the pinnacles of success. I think they did an interview with the guy Dr. J, who was a guy that Michael Jordan looked up to in basketball, and they asked him in an interview how was it that he reached the levels of success in his field that he did, and he said, well, he was always just pushing his own comfort zone. He was always just trying to challenge himself further than he did the previous time before. So basically you can take on that same sort of mentality and you can apply it to your dating life, to basically any area of your life. And that's one way to reach high levels of success in any field. Even something like dating, even something like pushing your comfort zone in socializing. Once again, free 30-minute strategy calls. I'm answering your personal questions, addressing your specific needs in those calls. If you hit me up at datingdestruction@gmail.com. Otherwise, I also offer paid in-field trainings that you can inquire about as well at that email. So otherwise, like and subscribe to my channel. And until next time, peace out, my brothers.